Well, the time has come. Finally, we are underway after untying our dock lines from Costa Baja Marina in La Paz, Mexico, to set off on the biggest adventure of our lives, a 2,800 nautical mile sail across the Pacific Ocean to the Marquesas Islands in French Polynesia with just the two of us and our 40-year-old sailboat. It seems we have been preparing for this sail for days, weeks, a few months? Okay, more like years. 4 years, actually. Yep, this was us, 4 years ago, when we bought this 1983 Nautical Development Offshore 40, without knowing anything about sailing.
No idea what's happening. We roll out the sail, the boat's still moving forward, so I guess we're doing okay.
We quit our jobs, sold our belongings, and set off on an unknown journey. Somehow, we made it off the dock in Florida and sailed to the Bahamas. A few months later, we found ourselves in the Caribbean, where we continued to learn, gain knowledge, and grow as sailors and as a team. Our year spent in the Eastern Caribbean was spectacular. Beautiful day! But with each passing nautical mile, we found ourselves wanting to go further. We carried on, making miles west toward Curacao, Colombia, and Panama. By this time, we found ourselves dreaming of the South Pacific, the pinnacle of sailing destinations, and opted to transit the iconic Panama Canal. And although the allure of the Pacific Ocean was calling, our boat wasn't ready to tackle the immense challenges of an ocean crossing. And perhaps, as sailors, we weren't ready either. We began navigating north up the western coast of Panama, Honduras, Costa Rica, and on to Mexico, fixing things in remote places and running from hurricanes. The trek continued as we rolled with the highs and the lows up through the Sea of Cortez and into the boatyard in Puerto Penasco, where we spent the last few months transforming our 40-year-old sailboat for our next chapter together. This brings us to where we are now. After 4 years, the question is, are we truly ready for what lies ahead? Well, there is only one way to find out.
Woohoo! Woohoo!
Well, we got off the dock, now what?
2,763 miles to go.
Woohoo!
Finally, we're on our way. I'm not even sure how I feel right now.
Yeah, I think we've just been so busy that I haven't even thought about how I feel about what's ahead of us. Our emotions ran high as we hoisted our sails and slowly inched our way further and further from the safety of land.
Well, the motor's off and the sails are out, but we're not really making much progress. We've got about 6 knots of wind right on the nose, and we're trying to tack our way into it and save fuel as best we can. But we're hardly moving, so we'll keep doing this for a while though, since we've got a really long sail. There's really no rush.
Okay, that's the second reef.
Yeah, that's what you want it.
With very little wind, we motored into the morning. We could tell we were nearing Cabo San Lucas as the sport fishing boats passed us by.
Can you use the main?
Yep. Easy. Pull it tight.
Yep. That's good.
It felt like the wind was starting to fill in behind us, so we hoisted our whisker pole, eager to do some downwind sailing.
Just watch till the tip gets to the pole.
But the wind wasn't ready to fill in just yet, and as quickly as we had the thing set up, we took it right back down. A little foreshadowing of the many sail changes to come. Good morning. I just woke up. It is actually noon, but I went to bed at like 8 a.m. this morning. And the sail is going exactly how we expected it to. Last night we left around 3 p.m. and we had light and variable winds. So we have been doing a lot of sail changes and trying not to motor too much because we want to conserve our fuel. But right now we only have 4 knots of wind. And Gary actually has a little bit of a cold he's developed since leaving. And yeah, pretty much we're just bowing around. We took the sail down. Our head sail is just flapping around in the wind. Not really sure what our game plan is, but we're just gonna wait here until the wind fills in. How's your passage going so far?
Not great. I'm getting very sick.
We just had lunch and the wind has picked up just enough for us to keep our head sail out. We have about 4 knots right in front of us and we're doing like 2 knots, but as long as we're staying moving forward, we're just gonna continue on like this and save the motoring. But Gary just went down to get some sleep. I really hope he starts feeling better. He has a pretty bad cough and sore throat. And yeah, we're just gonna keep going along. I think I'm gonna try to do some editing and just enjoy this calm, peaceful time that we're having right now. So the day has gotten away from me. It's about 4 p.m. and Gary's still not feeling well at all. I'm starting to get a bit concerned. We took his temperature. He doesn't have a fever or anything. So that's good. I've got to fix this sail. So yeah, we've been trying to sail all day, but there's 2 knots of wind. We're not making any ground at all, so pretty much bobbing. And like I was saying earlier, Gary's not feeling well at all, so he's downstairs resting. This is definitely not how we wanted our passage to start out. Things can always be worse. I mean, we're fine. The boat's fine. Everything's good. But we're hoping for some wind. And yeah, I would say the excitement level just isn't there right now, but not because we're not excited for the trip. It's just we need some wind. We need Gary to feel better. As we slowly departed away from the Sea of Cortez, we were quickly beginning to see the Pacific Ocean swell. I watched as the swell built, and I knew the wind would be greeting us soon.
Made it to the wind.
Woohoo! The wind! It is just after midnight, and Gary and I just switched on our watches, and we've got gnarly conditions out here right now. We're just rounding the tip of Cabo, and we started bashing into it. We've noticed that the swell was slowly starting to build. Well, now we have 25 to 30 knots sustained, and there's just giant waves. One just broke over actually like the front of the cockpit over the solar panels. It's the biggest wave we've ever had. And luckily Gary stayed dry because our Dodger did its job. But you can hear One Life just creaking, and it's a bit eerie, but we're doing okay. And hopefully when we get out around Cabo, this weather will calm down a bit for us. How you doing up there, Gary? Gary says he's doing fine. I'm shitting my pants down here.
Well, it's day 3, and it's been a pretty rough start. I don't think I've even picked up a camera to talk since we've left. I've come down with a pretty bad cold. It kind of started as a sore throat, and now it's just like a ton of congestion, and it's definitely messing with my inner ear and my balance, and I'm actually starting to feel a little seasick from it. And that's not good because the first few days are always very exhausting. Getting used to the sleep pattern and being sick is not helping. Brooke says that she's got a little bit of a sore throat now too, which hopefully she doesn't get as bad as I am, but she's been a trooper and stepped up and gave me a couple extra hours of sleep the past couple nights, which has been a huge help. Last night was not pleasant. We went from the first night of no wind and having the motor all through the night to ridiculous wind. We saw well over 30 knots last night, and the sea state was just pretty atrocious. I think we took a couple dozen waves over the side of the boat, over the bow, but our Dodger and new enclosure was getting battered by waves, but it was doing its job. It was pretty nice to be able to stay dry in here, and our new autopilot's been doing its job too. So it was uncomfortable, but it wasn't too bad because we just furled in the staysail all the way, reefed our main, and just cruised under a deeply reefed main through the night. But today it's starting to subside. We're about 50 miles south of Cabo, and we should get into more steady, nicer trade winds and sea state maybe in the next day or two. This was not the start of an ocean crossing that we were hoping for, but it's also kind of what we've come to expect, and that's okay. We've got some boobies flying around the boat this morning. and Brooke's down getting some sleep, and hopefully we're through the worst of it, and we get this nice downwind trade wind passage that we've been promised for all these years that we've yet to really experience. So we've done 180 miles. We have 2,580 miles to go. It's a long ways to go still. Well, we've been moving along pretty good for these past few hours. We're doing 7, almost 8 knots now. But the wind's starting to pipe back up towards 20 knots. And we've got a pretty deeply reefed Genoa out, which is working really well because it's so flat and it rolls up really nicely. The foam luff really helps to keep a shape for going upwind when we reef it, and we never could have done that before with our old Genoa, but now we're able to point upwind with it reefed. But it's still getting to be a bit much, so I think I'm gonna bear off, furl in the Genoa, and let out the staysail, and that's probably how we'll cruise through the night, so it's a little slower and just a little more calm in case the winds pick up again.
It's the morning of day 4, and unfortunately, I came down with the same cold that Gary had. So yesterday I pretty much just slept and did my watches, and that's it. But I've got a pounding headache, a runny nose, and a sore throat. And I'm just trying to stay hydrated and rest. Definitely not the way I wanted this passage to start, but the conditions have improved a lot since the other day, since we rounded Cabo. Right now we have 20 knots on the beam, and the sea state's probably 1.5 meters. We have our full staysail out and a reef vane, and we're doing about 6 knots, so it's nice and comfy. And I just hope that we start feeling better soon. One Life is doing great. She's just doing her thing out here, taking care of us. And it's a bit cloudy right now, so I hope the sun comes up later today. We could use some solar. Our batteries are getting a bit low. That's pretty much it. Wow, that looks so good. You're a legend, Gary. Thank you.
Well, I managed to make us breakfast, but in doing so, I made myself so squishy. I can't even eat mine. Hopefully Brooke enjoys a little bit of hers, but I'm gonna have to wait for like 30 minutes and then maybe I'll feel like eating. Well, it's been pretty nice sailing all day, and the wind is slowly starting to clock around to behind us. And it's gonna keep continuing until we're pretty much needing to sail dead downwind. So our head sail's starting to collapse as we roll in some of these swells. And the solution's gonna be to put out our 4-spar whisker pole. So the first step's gonna be actually rolling in the head sail, and then we're gonna get the pole all rigged up and set out on the port side, and then we'll unfurl the sail. And hopefully the pole stays set like that for a number of days. It looks like the wind's gonna be really consistent and be behind us and just off to the starboard side. So it should be pretty nice for running downwind with the pole. This will be probably a safer bet for us than putting out the spinnaker, just because it can still gust up at night, and it's a lot easier for us to just furl in the sail than it would be to drop a spinnaker at night.
Probably good as far as the stay goes. Okay, ease it. Are you ready?
Ready?
Easing.
Okay, pull it back in tight.
Tight. I decided to make burgers for dinner tonight. So I just put them in the pan here. And I'm gonna chop up some veggies for toppings. It's a bit rolly, but not too bad. I didn't prep any food for this passage. So we've pretty much been eating just fruits and snacking on whatever we can find. But it's time for me to get my shit together and make us dinner. So I finally feel good enough to be able to do that. The boat's motion is in a good spot. Yeah. I think the first few days of a passage are always the roughest. You're just trying to get in the groove of things and the motion of the boat. And with us both having colds, it certainly did not help us escalate that process any faster. So anyway. Whoa! It's falling off.
Perfect.
First real meal of the passage on day 4. Wow.
The breakfast I made you didn't count.
Oh yes, that is, the breakfast is definitely counted. That was awesome.
It's about as rolly and unpleasant as it gets this morning. I just woke up. Brooke went down to try to get some sleep. It is really loud down below because every time we roll side to side, everything shifts from one side to the other, and it's just a ton of clanging and banging and not easy to sleep through. But we've still got the head sail pulled out, and we're doing 5 or 6 knots in about 20 knots of wind, so we're moving along good. And behind me over here is actually the last land that we will see for quite some time, and land is a bit of a stretch. It's really just a rock. It's called Isla Partida. It's part of the Socorro island group off of the Mexican coast here, a couple hundred miles off the Mexican coast. And you can actually stop and get a permit to stop at the larger island, Isla Socorro. And we chose not to do it because it was $90 per person per day to get the permit. And we would have really liked to stop there. You can dive with manta rays, and the island's supposedly really beautiful. But at $180 per day and not knowing if the weather window will even allow us to anchor there, we decided we wouldn't attempt it and would just keep on sailing all the way to the Marquesas. 2,362 miles to go. Hopefully not all this rolly. I'm getting kind of hungry this morning. It is super rolly, and trying to make breakfast doesn't sound like very fun right now, but I'm gonna give it a go anyway.
Day 5, and I'm in the same clothes you saw me in for the past 3 days. Gary just went back to tighten our dinghy. There's quite a bit of swell building here. I just looked at Windy and it says it's like 2.8 meter swell. So he went back to tighten that up and also grab our bean bag so we can get a little bit cozy here in the cockpit. Everything's just rolling around inside, and it's been a little bit hard to get comfortable. But we're doing okay. I was gonna take a shower today, but I'm not sure these conditions will allow it. So maybe that's tomorrow's activity. In the beanie.
One salty beanbag coming right up.
How would you say your passage is going so far?
It's going.
Yeah, I'd say at this point we're still like just trying to survive.
Well, it's kind of nasty conditions.
Yeah, the conditions aren't great. This was not the downwind sailing I had in mind.
It's coming eventually.
Gary says it's coming. But it's still quite cloudy out, and We've not seen another ship all day. We've seen a couple birds fly by. And that's about it.
Well, this poor little flying fish is our first catch of the passage, and we haven't even put out fishing lines yet. I just found him up on deck. I went forward to do a few checks and make sure everything was snugged up still, and saw this little tiny flying fish laying on the deck. He must have came up on last night, died and dried out in the sun. You want to cook him up? Brooke's not feeling so great today. I don't think she wants to eat the flying fish.
Barely surviving today.
Back to the ocean.
It's day 5.
This is giving me memories of, I think it was day 5 on the 10-day sail too. We're gonna have to go back and look. But you seem to be in the same delirious state.
Day 6.
So right now we are without a working head. And the conditions are not very conducive to me taking apart the pump and trying to figure out what's going on with it. We used the shop vac to suck out everything that was in there and dumped it overboard. And maybe when it calms down, I'll try to fix the pump. But until then, we've got a 5-gallon bucket. Life at sea.
Oh, I'm delirious. One broken toilet and 2 colds, both offset by this gorgeous sunset. Not too bad for our first 5 days on the open ocean. Morning fish count.
Here's last night's haul of flying fish. Little guy. Pretty big ones.
One's big. How many?
5.
Good morning. It is day 6 out here, and it's another cloudy, gloomy day so far. There wasn't much of a sunrise, and we're just doing a watch switch. Gary just got up, and he's doing some checks around our deck, checking our rigging, checking to make sure our lines are still in good shape, no signs of chafe or anything like that. And I don't know, we might try to do some sort of sail change. It's really rolly, and it makes it hard for just everyday living, like cooking and sleeping and things like that. So another one. 6.
Let's try this set up for a little bit and see what we think. It's day 6. I have not brought up the energy to try to fix the toilet yet. I don't know. Maybe tonight. It's a little nauseating just being down below, and pulling apart a waste pump is definitely not something I look forward to. We're sailing pretty much dead downwind today. We've got the Genoa pulled out, and to try to combat the roll, we actually pulled out our staysail on the other side. And I rigged a block down to a cleat, to our midship cleat, to try to hold the staysail out. And it seems to be working pretty well. I'm not sure it's reducing the rolling all that much, but we did pick up a little speed from it. And haven't really been doing much else today. Just been lounging, sleeping, eating the rest of our fresh fruit.
I just took a shower. It was amazing. Total game changer. Whew. It was a little slippery on the side deck, but it was kind of fun. So anyway, I feel like a new person.
And I think I'm gonna do the dishes now, just one little task at a time. Well, I've pretty much just been laying either here or there today, and we've been alternating. We've not really been able to do much. The motion of the bow is just, it's a lot. The roll is pretty intense. What would you say the swell is?
10 feet, 12 feet.
Yeah, probably 10 feet. And it's almost time for dinner. Gary wants tacos.
Well, I was promised tacos. I didn't suggest tacos. But you put tacos in my head all day.
Yeah, I thought tacos would be easy, but now I'm regretting my decision of having to chop all the stuff.
Maybe we just have crackers for dinner.
Maybe crackers. Alright, it's time for me to give tacos a try. So I'm gonna set up the GoPro so you guys can see how this goes.
Life on the open ocean is a contrast of highs and lows, a reminder that in the ebb and flow of emotions, we learn resilience and embrace the unknown.